Hello, everybody. Buongiorno, or I guess it would be, yeah, that's about right. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon here on the east coast of the United States, and I'm going to get back in it with web dev. Last time, oh, awesome, an immediate host, that's pretty fun. Thank you, Flarecat, I appreciate it. What was I saying? Yes. Last time I did this on the middle of the week, I think I streamed this on Thursday, Wednesday, one of those days. Oh yeah, the middle of the week. Maybe it was Tuesday. I actually don't even remember. I think it was Thursday. Uh, I didn't make very much progress on this, and I think I learned that I shouldn't try and do technical type streams immediately after clocking out of work, where I did more or less the same thing for 8 or so hours. It didn't coalesce well. I was kind of grasping at straws, and my thoughts weren't clear. So I didn't get a whole lot done, unfortunately, last session. But on the bright side, that means if you're tuning in today, you didn't miss a whole lot. I basically tried to spitball some ideas for what I actually wanted the website to look like, and I kind of provided some half-assed explanation about how CSS worked, and I will do a much better job of that today, if anybody's curious. But the two things we basically covered were using HTML tags like what we see here. We have our SAS file here, which is a syntax for compiling into CSS. And we have our CSS here, which is what the browser interprets. CSS standing, of course, for Cascading Style Sheet. And the cascade is an important aspect of it that I will, I guess, explain in a little bit. Good news is, because I gave myself some more time to prepare and clear my thoughts and everything, I have a better plan of what I want the actual website to look like. Although it's not terribly imaginative, it's basically this. I want it to more or less look like what I have my stream layout going on here, where I'll have portrait in the top left corner instead of bottom right. I'll have like my bio text in the article section next to that, and then beneath that I will have like a grid of project tiles, I guess, where they have like a little embed that you want to scroll down for, and across the bottom bar would be the nav bar for like home, about, and all of my social links and such. Kind of emulating how I've got my bottom bar here with my text. Oh boy. There we go. I think I had myself muted for that entire time. Uh, Bon is shaking their head saying no, so that's good, I guess. I thought I did. Am I louder now than I was like 10 seconds ago? Um, because I was just watching my audio levels. You're able to hear me just fine. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Okay. Um, I am louder now though. Okay. Cool. Yeah, my audio levels were kind of janky. Okay. Okay. That's fine. Well, I'm glad I didn't have to re-record that though, or retry for that. That's good to know. Am I too loud now? Uh, I don't know. It's impossible to say. You are louder now. I'm also gonna put on my BGM again, but it'll be quiet this time. Like really quiet. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So, this is basically the plan. It's gonna be more traditionally web-based than what I had last time, which was like some really weird avant-garde Mega Man thing, which I can show you by running our tried and true node index.js. And let me hide this blueprint. So then if I flip back to, let's see, hotkey, localhost. That is not localhost, but that is the browser tab I want to use. We go back to localhost. It looks like this, where it's got like a grid. That was like my original thought was like, oh, maybe I should just have like the Mega Man grid. Let me hide terminal as well, because I don't really need to talk about terminal. But I don't think that will format well for mobile, and I think it's kind of just like a poor use of space. So we're going to scrap all that today. We're going to go back into our index, and we're going to work towards our little blueprint here of what I'm trying to achieve. I'll pop that in the corner again so I can hold it as reference. So we can basically tear down like all of this. Actually, so let's see. The first thing is we've got our nav bar. And I wanted to move this to the bottom of the page. So there are some easy ways we can do that. We go into our style sass, and we're going to look at our nav bar. We're going to do this as position fixed, which will say that it will stay in the fixed position on the page regardless of where you scroll, which is good. Next thing would be, yeah, we've got height. I believe I want to do, this would also have bottom of 0, which will put it flush against the bottom of the screen. And just for the sake of being able to visualize it, background color is going to be black. I think we have a variable for that. Black. No? Oh, shoot. Don't do what I just did. I was editing the CSS directly, which you don't want to do. Yeah, there we go. You want to edit the sass. My bad. Fbar, position fixed, which it already had. Cool, cool, cool. Bottom of 0. And the background color of black. Cool, so if I do that and I flip back to localhost, how has that changed things, if at all? Yes, okay. So there we go, we have our navbar across the bottom. Why does it have a little... Open up the inspector. It seems to have like a little bit of padding or something. I'm not quite sure why it's not flush against the corner there. Background, main. Huh. If I do like left 0, that seems to fix it. Okay. So that will make it nice and flush. Now for the sake of proving that this will stay fixed while scrolling, I could do something like main height, give it like a bunch of pixels, which should force there to be a scroll bar. And as we can see, when I scroll, pretty much nothing changes because both the background and the nav bar are listed as fixed right now. So I'm scrolling up and down, but you'd never be able to know because there's no content on the screen. Cool. Okay, so the fixed part works. Let me add that left 0 to the navbar sass. Every time I save the sass file, it recompiles automatically into CSS because we added a function or a command I was able to run through our package, build CSS. So in another terminal, I have this running at all times where it will basically listen for changes to the sass file and recompile into CSS immediately. So that's exciting and good. No more needing to tab back and forth and rerun that command and shut down the web server, etc., etc. Okay, cool. So one other aspect of that navbar I want to do, or actually, let's make this look more like my stream layout first. There's one other thing I can do. So we're going to say this is the ID of navbar and its class is full width, but we're also going to give it the class of background, which we have currently on the whole thing, which makes it have the scrolling background. I'm going to remove that class from the outermost div here. Actually, we don't even really need that at all, because I think I just want the background to be white, but we'll style it later. And so now the CSS for that particular element will inherit from both the navbar ID selector, which is very specific, and the more general background CSS here. So what I personally don't know off the top of my head is what happens when you've got a background color and a background image. I'm going to go ahead and remove the background color from navbar, but we will see if... Oh, I think Spawn about to type an answer to me, or Spawn working on something else. Every time I hear hammer away on the keyboard, I'm like, incoming chat message. But we'll see. I mean, we can find out through experimentation, right? Like, okay, so we flip this. Perfect. Okay. That's basically what I wanted. We have only the bottom bar has the scrolling content now. I think I want to make this like a bit taller, like probably 128 px. Yeah, that seems good. And then I need to do the same trick where I have the opacity only on the background layer. So that'll be next. Yeah, that's already better, I think. So let's change up some more sass variables. Oh, I didn't even... localhost. Yeah, sorry. This is what it looks like right now. We've got our navbar across the bottom. We are having the same issue that we had the first time, where because the background has a variable opacity, and because the whole navbar is inheriting from that level, it was not quite. It's making all the children rather opaque as well, or transparent because it's low opacity. So like the navbar is the top level, and it will inherit that property to the children elements. The whole parent container is low opacity, high transparency, so therefore the children contained inside of it are as well. But we can fix that the same way we fixed the background for the whole site, which is instead of making the navbar itself a background, we add a background element to it. I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but this is the way that I have always done it. Perhaps this is bad for web readers, I'm not sure. But basically we just make a dummy div inside the parent that it itself is background, but the overall parent is not. If we flip back here to localhost and I refresh, I think that's... Oh wait, no, hold on. Doesn't seem to have liked that. Background, position fixed, display, block. Why doesn't it like that? Interesting. Position instead of fixed, do I want absolute? Trying to figure out why it's now making these two columns on top of each other. Because it shouldn't, I wouldn't think. Like if I remove this element, they go back to normal. So it's clearly messing with the width and such. Let's see if we can figure that out. First, though, let's make our navbar height 128 pixels. So we save that. Refresh. Yeah, and so now our navbar is like really big, but for some reason the two actual bars are like scrunched up and they're not using the full width of the background. There must be something I am overlooking here where the background isn't letting things on top of it. I don't know what that would be though. If I change the width and the height, that doesn't do anything. Huh. If I move this lower, it doesn't... Oh wait, did that even move? Oh. That's odd. If I move this all the way down. I'm not quite sure why that solves the problem, but it seems to be agreeable. So let me just put this all the way at the bottom of the navbar. Lowest priority. We refresh, and okay, the problem seems to be solved. Alright, cool. That's a start. And then one other aspect of this, getting this bar to look like my stream, is I've got my little fence, like, grate. So let me bring that file into the project folder. Let me go find it first, wherever it's sitting on my hard drive. I think it's on my D drive. Wait, actually, where did I put that? If I don't remember where I put it, I can always go find it again. Because it is a, I believe, free to use for non-commercial use type thing. Which this, I think, qualifies under. Because I'm not like reselling the asset. Where did I put it though? It would be under documents. There we go. Layout, clip art, and I've got my fence. Let me move that to this project folder. So I know Bon is co-working. As they told me, they're working on a thing that is a secret, which is exciting. Anybody else up to anything on today, Sunday? Where am I going? I've lost my mind. I can't be the only one who's thinking Sunday's a perfect day to do more work. Boom. Oops. Fence. Okay, cool. I added it. I put it in the thing. So we're going to go back to localhost here. And then the nav bar, we're going to have another an IMG. Or no, there's going to be a div because we want this image to loop. So there's going to be a div. Class equals fence. And that's all they're going to have for that. And then our Sass here, we're going to make a fence class. Let me scroll. Oh, I should also probably up the size of the font. I always forget to do that because I switch it back every time for my own use because there's no real reason to have the font be size 24 when it's just me, but it's definitely more readable when there's an audience. Fence. Okay. So that's class for that. We want the background image to be URL /img /fence .png. So this will basically do a web request to find the file. This is up one directory from where we are, which is going to be the CSS directory. So up one directory from that will be the public folder. And then in there, there's a adjacent folder, which is image, and then fence. So just like how we set up the public folder as our static folder, it works here as well. Background, repeat. Actually, I don't know what that does. That's fine. We can mess around with this in the inspector. So we've got then in our index, we have a fence class, which will probably mess up the navbar position again. That's fine. Let's go back to here. Awesome. It did not do anything useful, but it did mess up the navbars. Height, 64px. Okay, so that makes it tile in a dimension that I don't want it to. Cool, cool, cool. Can we give this position absolute? Okay. Where are you? Width 100%? Okay, yes, that makes it overlap. So this is almost doing what I want it to do. Then we give this... So hold on, actually first, I think this is like 16 pixels tall or something. I actually don't know how tall the actual image is. Let me find out. Because that would be the size of height that I'd want to make this. Where's my cursor? Let's see. Properties of this. Details. It's allegedly 19 pixels tall. Weird height, but I guess it's clip art and not like pixel art. 19px. Which makes it not tile anymore. And then we're going to... Come on. We're going to give it a top of 19px. Px? No, other way. Minus 19px. Which does what I would expect. It looks very similar to my stream bar right now, except really small. But that's pretty much exactly what I want. So that's fun. I gotta figure out though why it is causing trouble for my navbar elements, but I wonder if the same trick will work where if I move this down, yes, that seems to do the trick. Okay, so now that we have, Caesar says, gonna do some Apex and IDV. I don't know what IDV is. And work on D&D stream stuff probably. This week the stuff I have to do at work is somewhat easy, but they think is hard, so I'll be chilling. That's the dream. That's honestly like when you've made it really good for yourself. You work in software, right? I think. Random question, what kind of database stuff do you guys use? Spring, straight query, DB object mapping of some sort? Dream, yeah. Okay, you mean like professionally? Or for what? I don't typically write stuff that has a database backend for fun, because I don't think that's fun at all. At work, it's just like RDS SQL type stuff. I think I'm allowed to say that. That's pretty standard. And then I don't really typically do database management for fun. I think for the guest book for our Tortoises website, we use a MongoDB because it's really simple. And then for this website over here, Subscriber Vault, it just has an S3 files system backend. There's no like database, no relational database aspect to it. It just knows what file names things should be based on a very predictable schema. So no relational database, it just knows what files it needs to look for and goes and gets them directly from the front end. Coolness, thanks. Yeah. Okay. Glad that can help. Well, speaking of work and everything, the last day that I did this stream where I was doing web dev, and I mentioned I was like frazzled and out of it and didn't get very much done. As soon as I finished that stream, I took an hour break to eat dinner, and then I got called back on to do a production deploy, and the bridge line for that production deploy lasted 8.5 hours, and I signed off at 2:30 in the morning. So that day, I don't remember which day it was, but I did work 2 full work days in a single stretch. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. Overall, though, I would say my job does not make that happen very often, so I'm only a little bit bitter about it. Overall, they're pretty good about not asking me to come in after hours, and setting timetables such that there's never any like immediate fire where things have to get done right this second. So I'm grateful about that. Not the dream. It's part of it, I think. Yeah. So I definitely wouldn't recommend, and I will try and avoid it in the future, doing working type streams or learning type streams like this where I am immediately coming out of a work day. I think that was bad for everybody involved. I think what I learned about myself from doing that, like I'm glad I did it because it taught me that I shouldn't do that again. And I mean, I did have some folks stop by, which was quite nice. I learned about WebAssembly. One guy came into the chat and was telling me all about that, which was neat because I'd never heard of that before. But I learned about myself is that I shouldn't try and do that. I think going forward with having like a regular schedule or what have you, I want to save the nonsense video game stuff for the weekdays, because I can turn my brain off pretty easily for those. And, well, Fire Emblem's I guess, a thinking person's game, and that's the game I'm playing right now. So maybe not totally turn it off, but, and then save the actual creative type stuff where I have to think and actively engage my brain to make good decisions. Save that for the weekend. And maybe even Sunday, so I have like the whole day off on Saturdays. I don't know. But I think this is going already much better than last time. So what was I going to do here? Right, fence fence height, I guess. I'm going to make this a variable because I reference it in 2 places, and I might change the size of the image later. So 19px, and because it's a variable, I can go here and just change this to fence height. And I think in order to make this negative, I don't think I can just do negative fence height. Actually, we'll see if that works. I know you can do calculations with variables in SAS as well, and I thought I would have to multiply this by -1, which will require a calc. But we'll see if this works. Let's flip back to localhost, refresh. Does it look the same? It looks the same after a refresh, so we're good. Let's see, inspect this element. Yep, perfect, awesome. I'm actually gonna change this to 18 because there's like a little white gap, I think. So if I refresh, lowers it just a little bit. Perfect. Perfect, that's pretty much like exactly what I want. Yeah, okay, that's very good, that's very good. While I'm in the mindset of using absolute positions and things like that to, I guess, style this page. What else do I want to do? I wanted to take the little sakura petal trees or bushes or what have you, and I wanted to incorporate them here as well. So I should go and find where I put those again. That would be in my documents, VTubing layout, clip art. take the tree, and I'm going to take a couple other of the props that I have here as well, because I think I'll want to use them as well. Move that to my images folder, give those names. Tombstone and tree. And I think I want to put in the top corner of my web page here, just because it reminds me of what I have going on elsewhere. Like if I turn this back on, my little logo patch, and like maybe in the other corner as well. So I want to emulate that on a web page, so I can do that pretty easily. We're going to go back to VS Code. Div. So this is going to be probably an ID, because it's going to have like bespoke rotation. So this will be class equals tree, but it's going to also have an ID. ID equals tree top left. Okay, so that's good. We want that. So we can have a general purpose tree class, which will give all of these things like the background image of... Actually, no, actually, we don't want this to be a div. We want this to be an img, I think. What's the best way to do this? Oh, actually, no, I know it. Yeah, div is fine, div is fine. Div, so we've got ID tree, tree top left, class tree. So if we go into our Sass now, we can make a tree class, which will have background image, background repeat none, no repeat. That's getting ahead of myself, but that's what it filled in. Background image, and this is going to be another URL. We do our dot to go up a folder, img, and then it would be tree.png. So then if I save this and I flip back to localhost, it's probably going to complain that it doesn't have a width or a height, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I wish there was a way to just make it the width of the background. So if I give this like a width of like 100px and a height of 100px, yeah, it becomes somewhat visible. I could also always just do like width of 100%, I think, and a height of 100%. No? Okay, it doesn't like that for some reason. Oh, I guess because main doesn't have any real size either. Okay, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. How big is the tree? We'll once again look at our properties. This is details. About 300 by 400. Perfect. Okay, so we can once again go back to VS Code. We're going to make some more variables. Tree width 300px. Tree height 400px. I'm wondering if I should keep doing these things in pixel sizes, or I probably will want to swap over to them being relative, like EM units, later. I'm not sure if I'm setting myself up for failure or not. We'll see. Height is tree height. Width is tree width. Okay, so we flip this back to localhost, refresh, and there's our tree. Awesome. Cool. That is what we want. So we go back to VS Code. There's more to do though. We want this thing to, what is it? Event, pointer events. None. So that will basically prevent you from being able to click on it, which is good if you have something that has like a lot of transparency that might be potentially blocking like something else you want to click on. This will prevent you from actually clicking on it. And I think we also want this to have position fixed. I'm wondering if I should make like the nav bar and this all part of like a frame element, that the whole thing is position fixed instead of each of these elements being position fixed. I'm not sure. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. We're rapid prototyping, as they say. Okay, so refresh. Nothing appears to have changed, but that's okay. And now we have what a basic tree is, which is all of these things. It's the correct size and correct background, and they won't intercept events. So now I can make my ID tree top left. So this is that specific tree, which will have all the functions, or all the styling of the original tree because we gave that class. But this one in particular, we want to transform, rotate around the Z, I think. 25, 24. Let's see what that does. I don't remember what each axis is. Yes, okay, that's the right axis. Going back to localhost here, I refreshed this, and as you can see, it is rotated. Thanks to the transform selector, or transform styling, I can make this go whatever direction I want. Which is good, because that's what I want to do. So, let's keep modifying this in the inspector here. Top of 0, top of negative 50 px, 100, and then left with negative 150 px. Yeah, that's like pretty much what I have. I'm just guessing numbers here. I could probably shove it more off screen. 175. Something like that. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have. If I flip back to my, let me hide the blueprint, and then show where I usually keep my logos, that looks about the same. Oh, I like guessed the angle, like pretty much 100%. That's awesome. That looks very much the same. Cool. So let's remember what these are supposed to be. So this was 125 degrees, and then we had top and left, and we're going to make those variables again. So tree top left offset 150 px. So as you can probably guess from what I'm doing, or see from what I'm doing, the use of variables is pretty handy. Because like I can now have the same number for the offset for the left top and left. For the tree overall, we had the same width and width and height, which is useful. You only have to change the number then in one place. You can do math with it. It's one of the big advantages of SAS that you would otherwise have to find every place that you've used the same number for, and it's kind of a chore. So big ups to SAS for letting me do that. Oh, right, it wasn't 150. I'm going to demonstrate how useful that was, because I typed in the wrong number here. I actually wanted it to be 175. So we save that, and we go back to localhost, and we refresh, and I only had to change the number in one place, and it moves it in 2 dimensions. And I could keep doing that. I'm going to go even further, 225, and I'm going to refresh again, and it's just a little bit in the corner now, which is good. I think that's what I want. Back to VS Code. I think I want to increase the opacity of my navbar because it's a little too pale, I think. So let's change that. Yeah, it's a bit better. Seeing it with these other elements made me really feel like it was too light. Cool. Eventually there will be content to frame, but right now we are just building the frame, which I'm not sure if is a very ass-backwards way to do things, but it's the part that I had clearest in my head at the time. So that's what we're doing. And then another part that I wanted to add was the little tombstone in the corner. Trees maybe be optional about that, but that'll have like the website name or whatever on it, just like my stream layout. So we can once again achieve that with another div. Let's see on our nav bar here. Nav bar is full width. I think we're gonna want to parent div. Parent these, oops. Columns, what am I doing here? The column elements into their own little container. So once again, we have divs on divs on divs. This is the way the internet works. This is how HTML does. Everything is just a child and nested all the way down. So these guys will be in their own container. This will be ID, I guess, navbar links, because that's what they're going to be eventually. We're going to have now an img. The reason I made the trees a div, by the way, instead of a image tag element, even though they are images, is because, and there might be a way to do this with the image tag that I'm just not aware of, I wanted the class to basically specify what image URL we were using, so I didn't have to copy that URL for each image. Because like as we're about to see here, the source for this is going to be written in the tag, so it'll be like dot dot, or it'll be, sorry, slash img slash tombstone, I think. .png. But because I used the other one as a background material or a background image, I could specify that via the CSS. So anytime I make a thing with class tree, it'll have that picture in it automatically, which is what I wanted to do. Okay, so how does that change things? I've added this. Localhost. Okay, it's a start. Oh, actually, you know what I should do? Now, because I'm building this frame in my web page, my own frame of my stream is kind of blocking it. So let's see if I can make this more visible. There we go. So that's the whole web page. None of it's being blocked by my frame. Yeah, you can see I added this tombstone here in the corner, and it's now pushing everything down because it thinks that it should render in a block way, but it does have the correct image. So let's noodle around with this. We can do, once again, position like absolute or fixed. In this case, it doesn't really matter because it's the child of a... Actually, I'm not sure. Does it matter? Let's make main really, really tall again. Height, EX. If I scroll... Okay, yeah, no, it doesn't matter. Position absolute's fine. We can then do... It's like anchor to the top. We want to do top minus 100 px. Something like that. I'm just guessing numbers here again. 25 px. And then... Oh, interesting. Let's move this guy... That. No? Huh? 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 Oh, wait. Move this back out of there. I was noticing that the fence is rendering on top of it because the fence is lower in the hierarchy here. Which is not what I wanted. I can do like that. And then I can move this after fence. Oh, it doesn't like that though all of a sudden. Why? That's bizarre. They're both position absolute, so I wouldn't think it would care. Huh? That's weird. Whatever. Okay, one step at a time. Let's put this back to where it was. We have top minus 75 px, left minus 35 px. Man, I'm really good at eyeballing this stuff. Okay, that is pretty good. That's like exactly what it looks like on my stream layout, I think. I'm sure it's gonna look really fucking bad when I go to mobile, but maybe not. We'll maybe figure out how to get it to scale. That's another cool thing about the browser and the inspector is you can toggle between resolutions really quickly, and you can even change what like type of device is browsing. So you get all these different aspect ratios so you can test this kind of stuff. Something I'm going to want is, I think, for this navbar to become much larger on a mobile screen, but again, one step at a time. Let's go back to the Pixel 2. Doesn't look as bad as I thought it would. But I do really like this so far, where it looks a lot like my stream layout. Maybe it's just because I'm really unimaginative, or because I crave uniformity, but I think it's kind of fun. It's not really what you'd expect necessarily from a website, but I think it will work and convey the kind of content I want to put on it. Okay, so now we're going to go back to VS Code, and we're going to take the values we arrived at from the inspector. We're going to make our... Was that a class that I give it, or was it an ID of Tombstone? Neither. This thing needs an ID. Equals Tombstone bottom left. Cue your bottom left jokes now. I assure you that this tombstone is totally safe for work. Tombstone bottom left. So we give it those values. I should probably make these into variables. Position absolute. So if I go back to localhost now and refresh, okay, it looks exactly the same, which means that we got that taken care of. So now what I want to figure out is why this fence is rendering on top of the tombstone, because what I would imagine should happen is I should be able to move this tombstone all the way to the bottom here. Actually, what I can do, I can cheat, which is probably bad. I can just give the fence a z-index of like -1, and that'll hide it. Which feels like cheating, but I think that's why the CSS thing exists. Why the CSS function exists is so you can cheat like that. Otherwise, I don't know why they do it. Okay. So let's do that. Go back to VS Code. Fence. Z index. -1. It'll just put it behind anything that's at 0, which is everything by default. So that's good enough for me. And we've got our tombstone. Let's make these variables just so we have everything nice and uniform. Bottom left. That's a hell of a variable name. I don't have a better name for it. And then we have tombstone, bottom left. Left offset was -35 pixels. Tombstone, top offset. Bon, how's your progress going for the thing you're co-working on? You gotta tell me. It's important. You don't gotta tell me what it is, because I know you said it's like a surprise. But I want to know how you're going along. It's going. That's better than the alternative, I think. So that's cool. Let me just make sure that this translated properly, and I didn't botch it. Okay, cool. Looks good. So now we want this to be like big margin, hover margin left of like, well, I guess it would just be the pixel width of that tombstone. So let's try 250px. Not bad. I almost got it completely right. So navbar links. Maybe a bit too much. 200. Something like that, yeah. That checks out. That's what I want, basically. Okay. So then I want to put text on the tombstone here, like my name or whatever. Probably just be like a this would be the home link, I guess. If you click on it, it'll bring you back to the top level page. And then we have the columns offset so they're not hidden behind the tombstone. So let me add that to the SAS as well. VS Code. Navbar. Margin left would be like 200px. Make that a variable as well. Bar. I feel like making out all these things in pixel width instead of a responsive unit like EM or what have you, or viewport width, is setting myself up for disaster. But I'll have to revisit that off stream and assess if that's actually a problem. Because that's another thing, is you keep seeing me specify that this is like 5 pixels. In CSS, there's a lot of different unit types that you can use, some definitely used more often than others, and they're helpful for different, use cases. There's the pixel, which I think you can intuit what that is based on your understanding of pixels. There's EM, which is responsive in some way. I don't quite know what it's based off of. I think it's based off of like font width or font weight. Is like what that's typically used for, but you can use it for anything. There's a VH and VW, which is viewport height and viewport width. So you can do like 10 VH would be 10% of the height of the screen. And that would be like the quantity of height that you're translating something to. And so the latter couple ones are all responsive, where they scale with screen size, and they help make sure that your stuff is like appropriately sized for the screen it's on. Phones have very, very high resolution. So if you say that something is 1 pixel, it will look minuscule on a phone because they have many, many pixels per square inch. So you want things that are relative to like the resolution and the aspect ratio more than you do the actual material size. Oh, Isvi pops out to say EM is line height. Thank you. Yes, thank you. How's it going, Isvi? I don't know how long you've been lurking or if you just showed up, but thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to your Kong stream in like an hour. I will definitely be tuning into that. I think this will probably wrap up right around the 3 o'clock mark. I probably have another hour left in me before I run out of voice. And so I'll be looking forward to that. I've been in and out. Yeah, you were mentioning you were watching Cheers, so that's really good. There are definitely worse ways to spend maintenance period than watching Cheers. Maybe not many worse ways, but there definitely are worse ways. What was I even doing here? It was navlinks margin. I gotta get you to watch Frasier next, though, once you finish Cheers. That's the logical next step. It's the second season, basically. Okay. So we go back to our localhost, we refresh. We've got our appropriate amount of margin space on this side. Let's get some text onto this tombstone, if we can. Actually, I should have made this a div now that I want to put text into it. So we go back to VS Code, and I'm thinking about this, and this should actually be a div. Div, like that, end div, because then I can put text in it. Like that, Skeletom's channel, and I will move this source to now become just like we had the tree. I don't think I can do what I was trying to do, what I'm about to do here. Because like an image is like, here's an image, but a div can be anything. And a div lets you put text inside of it like this. And I want text on top of the tombstone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the, instead of being a source image, I'm going to go back to my style. Where's my tombstone? Tombstone bottom left. I guess I didn't make a class for it. That's fine. Background image. URL. Like that. Background repeat. No repeat. And that should be good for that, I think. Move the source. Cool, I saved that. We go back to localhost. What the hell does this look like now? All right, not thrilling. I guess because it was an image, it was inherently the... Oh, wait. I don't need to do that. I need to do something different. Let's see, style. No. This doesn't need to specify the image. It is the image. I wrapped that in a div. I'm forgetting how hierarchy works because no real reason. So we put the image inside the div, and we say Skeletom's channel. This will probably go in a span at some point, so flipping back to VS Code. Instead of making this image a div, it can stay an image. I probably should have done this for the tree as well. Though, like I said, I kept the tree as a class so that they would all have the same image without needing to retype it. So we have our div container, which contains both the image, and then on top of that, because HTML works in a top-down waterfall type cascade, this will be rendered first, and then the next thing will be rendered on top of it, which is the text. So we go back to localhost. Almost. What happened here? It also seems to have offset my navbar for some reason. This... If I remove the text, does it fix anything? It does. Okay. So then we want to put the text inside of a span. ID equals channel name. Tombstone. Channel name. And we're going to do... Ooh. I really need some way to automatically get it to switch between VS Code and localhost, depending on which one I have open, without just doing a full desktop capture, I think. Because I'm always slow to do that. I'll learn maybe eventually, but not today. Not $, hashtag that. And I think all I need to do here is position absolute to get it to render on top of other stuff instead of inline or block. Position relative will make it render like next to things. I want it to render on top. So it's absolute, does not care. There we go. That's essentially what I want. And then we can do styling here. So we can do class equals sent. That's a class we've already defined in our CSS. So if I add that, does it do anything? Not really. It doesn't look like. But if I make this also have width of 100% of the parent. Oh, what the hell? Where'd it go? Oh, no. Right, because it's absolute. So, OBS should have a setting deactivate when not showing. But I need to activate something else. Or unless you're saying they both are set to that and they'll reactivate when they get picked back up. That would be helpful, because I've just been using Stream Deck hotkeys to switch back and forth. I will look into that. That's a good idea. That's, I think, solving the problem, yeah. I'll look into that later. Okay. Eh? Where'd he go? Oh, we lost it. There we go. I'll look into that for my next stream, because this will definitely continue being another parter. So what I did was I made the text supposed to be with 100%, and I was like, oh, they'll be 100% of the parent, but it's not relative anymore, so you can't do that. How do I accomplish this task? Oh, wait, I know what I need to do. Yes. So I need to move this one more layer up. so back to VS Code. What I need to do is in my HTML here, instead of giving this image the ID, I need to make the whole container have that. And then this doesn't need to be absolute. It can be relative to the parent because the parent is absolute. Instead of each element inside of it being absolute. So flip back to localhost. How does that change things? Only a little bit. Why are you out here? What's happening? Okay, that didn't quite do what I thought it would do. With 100%. Where is this text? Huh? I don't quite understand why it's rendering off screen, but that's okay. I give it position relative, which I think should be the... I hate manipulating this stuff. Height, 100%. Why is it rendering off screen? Actually, can I even do... Does this work? I don't know if you can do this. I don't know if image tags can have things inside them, but we are about to find out. So what I've done here is instead of having these be two adjacent divs, I made the image tag have a closure, which it doesn't normally need to have, and inside of it has something else. I don't know if this actually works. I have never tried. Who's pinging me? Ah, nothing important. Okay, let's flip back to localhost. What the hell happens if I do what I just tried to do here? Alright, we're back to kind of where we started. Position absolute. Why? If I take position absolute away, it loses its mind. Why is this rendering outside when I want it to render on top? Oh, it looks like you just can't. Yeah, you can't do that. It's fixing it up in browser. Just putting it inside does not do anything. Okay, good to know. So let's just undo that. Okay, how do I accomplish what I'm trying to do here? Let's see. Oh, and we also wanted to give this a class of center align. I don't think that's actually going to change anything, but it's something we can do. When we do that, it disappears. That's interesting. Interesting. Oh, okay. I don't quite understand. It should be center aligned, but it's like not. it's like halfway aligned, or rather the... Let's move this. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So let's unoffset this so that we aren't confused anymore about how big the element is. It's like that. And then the span, if I change this to a type of div, will that be better? Instead of span? Does that change anything at all? No. If I give this the class center, does that do anything? It does. Okay. Magic. I understand now. So let's put everything back the way it was. Perfect. Okay. So now, do I need to center align this? What actually do I need to do? Yes. Okay. So I want this span to be center aligned, and then I want the top container to be center aligned. Ooh, I don't know if we can see it, but here's a good example of how CSS cascading works. Let's see, can I don't think I can make this more visible. I can't increase the size of the inspector. But we see here, we have element style, which would be style tags applied directly to the element in the HTML. You pretty much never want to do this, but you can. Then we have this hashtag tombstone bottom left. That is an ID selector, which is like by name. There should only be one of these. And we see we've got all these wonderful attributes, including display, which I've set to flex. Then, in the cascade, we see we have center align, which is a dot selector, which is a class, which is less specific than ID. And we'll see that this display property is struck through. And it's not just because it's duplicated. If I set this to block, you'll still see that center align's display is struck through. And the reason for that is because of the cascade. CSS will propagate out its properties with the most level of specificity first, from the last most specific thing it interprets. So like if you had two CSS files that both had definitions for tombstone bottom left, the last CSS file loaded would be the one that takes priority. And because tombstone bottom left is an ID and not a class, its definitions for these properties take priority over those of the class. This is kind of similar to how we set the tree also, where we have the overall class tree, which everything can be a part of, but then we specify very specific styling properties of the tree in the tree ID CSS. So yeah, here's an example of cascading of the cascading style sheets in the field. Anyway, we don't need that property. We need to make the tombstone bottom left center align, and we need to make the channel and text have class center align. We can do that. Class center align. And we have the span. Okay, cool. So I think just adding that will do it. If I refresh this now, will this look good? No. Okay, I'm missing something. But what? What was missing? Oh wait, did I not save? Oh, I didn't save. Yeah. It helps to save your changes. I need a save reminder redeem when I get those set up. But who knows when that'll be. There we go. Cool. So we've got our text. We'd love to see it. Inspect. Awesome. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. Yeah, we want to keep it absolute. And now we want to make it big. Let's see. Back to... Actually, if we can just do this... Who's pinging me? Why am I always being pinged? Okay. We're going to go back to our inspector here, because you can just mess with this stuff inline, so why not? Skeletom's channel here. We're gonna do font, color, or actually I think that's just defined as color. In CSS parlance, it's gonna be white. Yep, just like we got it here. Font size 20. Would it be 2 EM? Too big, maybe? I guess that's too big. 1 EM? That's too small. 1.5 EM? I wish I could get this to just be the same width as the parent without having to specify pixel width stuff. But because it's position absolute, I can't just say width 100%. I don't think. Whatever, we'll stick with it being 1 EM for now. Baby steps, baby steps. Yeah, get rid of that. Let's see, can we do shadow? Text shadow. Does that do anything perceptible at all? I don't think so. Yawn. Big yawn. Oh wait, no, it doesn't like that. What's wrong with this? Why is that what it's recommending? If alright, fine. Let's look up the text shadow MBN. Okay. So you want... Oh, I need to specify that those are pixels. Okay, I understand. So here we do text outline? Or is there an outline? Let's look up the outline property. Does that work for text? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Let's go back to the text shadow. That's fine. Text shadow 1px, 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 black. There we go. That's almost what I want. It's just really too small. If I zoom in. Almost what I want. We're getting there. Okay. I will copy over these properties so that we can use them, or at least build off of them. Black. White. Yeah. Alright, it's a start. Let me uninspector that and set this back to 100%. And look at it with localhost. It sure does look like my stream layout, so that's cool. That is what I wanted to achieve so far. I'll worry about the particulars of getting this text formatted nicely at another time. Let's keep building the broad strokes, I think. I don't want to get too caught up in the weeds. We've got our columns for our navbar that we can fill in later. Let's actually, I guess, get some content in here. I probably don't want it to be a pure white background. Maybe I'll go for like the cardigan gray color that I have. I don't remember what the hex code for that is off the top of my head. I don't know if that's weird or not to not remember the hex color of your clothing, but I certainly don't. That's okay. That's easy enough to mess with. Let's go back to VS Code. So we've spent a lot of time setting up this frame. So that's good, that's good. I might move all of this stuff into its own div at some point, just so I can like collapse it easily. Because that's another fun thing about the IDE is you can just collapse nested structures like this. So you can hide them and not have to look at them. I don't need this to have ID of grid anymore. I don't know what that's going to do because we don't want things in a grid anymore. So let me remove that from the CSS as well while I remember it. Don't need that anymore. Okay, it looks like there was never actually any CSS for the grid. Let's do gray. This will be like that. 222, something like that. I don't need to have this open anymore. Class or ID. Yeah, so we've got our main. Background color gray. Oh, hi. Yeah, welcome back. Today I've got a bit more of a game plan. My goal is to make my page look more like this instead of the Mega Man thing I was trying. This is basically my stream layout, but in web page form where I've got like a bar along the bottom, which will function as the nav bar. It'll just show a little peek of these project tiles, so you'll want to scroll down and inspect them more. It'll have my bio across the top with my picture in the top left and some about me, and then some like framing and styling. That's basically my plan this time. None of the dumb Mega Man stuff. I think this will format more traditionally for mobile as well when I get around to it. So to show you where we're at, I was just about to actually reload the page. So let's flip back to localhost and refresh. Oh, interesting. Thinks that main is only that tiny little top bar. That's strange. I wonder why. Main height width. Huh? That's odd. I don't know why it thinks that main is so small. That should be like the entire thing. Do I need to specify how big body? Oh, I think that's what it is. Width, 100%. Height. No? Okay, interesting. I don't know. Main. And all these things are absolute position, so they shouldn't be messing with the size of this. Like if I set this height to 200. Did I read about WASM? Yes. But I'm not using it, so it is not germane to the discussion. Okay, so I can make this bigger. Why is it not inherently filling the entire container, though? If body is at 100%, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Why does setting this to 100% on the body level not make this fill the whole page? Peculiar. I don't know. Because what I'm expecting will happen here is that just the whole background is going to be this gray color, which is what I want. But that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that the main element here is arbitrarily very, very small. Like if I disable the width and height that I've set for it, it thinks it has no height whatsoever. I'm hoping it's not because of these elements. Like if I remove these, it's still really small. Okay. So that's not it either. Why is main thinking it has no height? And if we give body height as well, it doesn't solve the problem. If I give this 100 VH, also doesn't solve the problem. Oh, well, oh, okay, yes it does. But I shouldn't need to do that, I wouldn't think. I think that's like inherent. And then if I make this main height 100%, that's what I was expecting. But I wouldn't think I would need to do that. That seems odd. But we can always change it later. Height 100 VH. You go to VS Code. We specify that the body should be 100 vertical viewport units tall, and we specify that main height is 100% with 100% of the parent, because it's relative. So because the body fills up the whole thing, we can expect that the main, which is inside of it, will take up the entire size of the body. Cool, that's what we want. Almost there. It looks like a little theater now, which is good. Gotta obviously fix up the text and stuff, but this is more or less what we're imagining. Yeah, I like this. I like this. It needs polish, but the broad strokes are getting there, which is good. I wonder if I should try and emulate the like tall vertical tombstone that I've got behind me for chat for some reason. I don't know, it makes the framing make sense or like feel contained, but I don't think it has a place on the web page. Honestly, even the little floating tree doesn't really have too much place on the web page, but I just wanted to set that up and show off the transform CSS selector. Okay. Probably not. Wait, to which one? The little tree or the vertical tombstone? Yeah, I agree. I'm just looking at what my stream layout looks like and how I translate that to a web page. But let's stick to this. Let's stick to this one. Okay. So that's good. Before I royally screw this up, let's pop terminal back open and let's commit what we've got. Status add all git commit let's see, what have we done here so far? We have broad strokes for a new git push. So now when I inevitably screw up the HTML in some way that I don't know how to unstuck, I can just pull it down from version control again and pretend like nothing bad ever happened. Should also add another entry to our README though I'll fill out more before I finish up today. So let's see, July 25th, 2021. Decided to make the page resemble my stream layout instead of the last idea. That's my spell idea. We learned about CSS position. For inheriting properties. What else have we done? I guess it's really those two major things, and the rest has been actually getting them to cooperate. I'll explain the cascade principle of CSS. Let's see, and let me see if I remember the syntax for this. Is it like that? And then I can go to MDN's cascading and inheritance. Let me link that straight from the README, so if anybody ever wants to check this out, we can. Let's see, there we go. Oh, and let me turn off terminal as well. I think that's the syntax for this, unless it's the other way around. Let's find out. Open preview. Yes, okay, cool. That's the link. So if people want to learn about the cascade principle of CSS, they can. It's pretty straightforward. As I said, it's basically the most specific thing takes priority, which we learned about with our ID versus class selectors today. All right. I'll save the end result for when I'm actually done with the stream, probably in the next half hour or so. I don't know. Let's finish this up and get something nice. Okay. So we have our whole nav bar. Nice. Cool. Now let's build some content, I guess. Content container. All right, yeah. So back to our little sketch. That would be the container for everything that's not part of this frame. So like my little portrait icon, some about me text next to it, and then the second half of that would be tiles for projects. You scroll down and select and inspect. So let's see. This would be like a grid of some sort, I think, is how I'd set this up. I think. Yeah, because I want basically two columns. Although, I don't know that I want them to be necessarily columns. It would just be like a single row. And then, yeah, that might work. Okay, so div class equals new row full width. That's not how you spell width, but WID TH width. And I use that elsewhere, right? That's definitely a class name. We'll see. ing class icon src equals img welcome to my web zone, the most important text you can put on any web page. Let's see, how does that, this would probably be a p tag, paragraph tag. That's markdown. Okay. What the hell does this do if I go to localhost? Bad request invalid. Oh, right, my server's not running because I killed it for Git. Node index, duh. Please serve me on my web page. There we go. I don't know where my text went, but this is almost correct. Oh. Huh? What? Oh, it's not readable because it's the same color. That tracks. Let's do color white. So now when I go back to localhost, huh? Huh? It's like this is somehow rendering. Does that not cascade? Or not inherit? Because they're not getting that color. Why? Why? What did I do? Does that solve it? Oh, I should also hide this blueprint again. Okay, that solves it. Okay, so they just need to be in the direct parent, which is me in this case. But these should also be in the same row instead of like on top of each other. So that means we need to make this not display a block, but this one would be display flex. Everybody loves a good flex box. That is another cool CSS, I guess, piece of advice or terminology. I'm not sure what the... Yeah. So we've got this display property, which is really, really important. There's position, which will be like, should this be next to things, on top of things? Like, we use position absolute to get this framing stuff all where it needs to be. And that part works. But there's also display. And by default, it's block, which just means that it will be this on top of the other thing, on top of the other thing. But you can also use flex, which will put blocks next to each other, which is exactly what we want to do in this particular case. Yeah, that's so, okay. Let me do that. Do I want the whole content container to be flex? No, because I want there to be individual rows, which we want to be in blocks. Like this would be a block, and if we had the section beneath it full of the little content windows, that would also be a block. But then the individual blocks inside them would have display flex, I think is how we want this. Yeah, okay. That makes sense to me. So let's do something about that. I'm looking forward to sorting the CSS also. I'm just kind of putting stuff wherever. Class, row. Not parentheses, but instead brackets. Display. Flex. a mighty flex. If we refresh, it's not going to do anything because I didn't give this to be a class row. So let's refresh. Perfect. Perfect. And of course everything's really close to the edges, but we can work with that. I am happy to report that I will be avoiding being posted on the VTuber Sneeze Twitter account for at least one more day because I managed to meet myself just in time. So, with disaster averted, let's get this even closer to our blueprint. I think I had like a sizable offset. Oh wait, hold on, here we go. Alright, we're good. Once again, avoiding disaster. So let's see, what do we want to do here? Probably the content container, which is the overall container for this. We'll need some margins. We do like 2 EM. Something like that is probably a healthy margin. Yeah, that seems good. Wait, hold on. Okay. Oh, yes. Let's remove the padding from main because we don't... What? Huh? What? That's interesting. Okay, so I thought if we remove the padding from main, that would be good. But then if I add a margin to a thing inside of main, it like pushes... Like if I add this margin back, it pushes main down? That's not how I would think that should work. I think I mean padding, not margin. Okay. Sure, that's good enough for me. This image will become much larger. I think it'll be like a full body, probably. I gotta see if there's a format I can use that'll let me have like transparency on the background while still being an animation. I don't know if there is. That's okay. Yeah, this is shaping up though. This is actually starting to look like a website. As soon as you add text, it's like, wow, that's a website. So let's put that in on the VS Code side of things. This is our ID of container, adding, and let's do, we have our basic margin is 0.5, and we wanted it to be a lot more than that. So we can do a calc 4 times, I think it's like this. I think that's how you do that in CSS. Or in Sass rather. You have to, this like, you can use a variable in this calc function by doing this weird specific selector. Let's see, did that compile? It did actually. Does that work? Let's find out. Wow, it did. But it's added scrolling, so something is amiss. Oh, it's because I still have also padding in my main, which we don't want anymore. So it's double counting the padding. There we go. Amazing. So now, like, even though we wrote that weird, funky calc in the Sass, like, if we look at it, VS Code, where'd you go? There we go. even though we wrote this weird funky SAS code here, where it's calc 4 times pound bracket $, basic margin, when we look at the actual compiled CSS, it understands that just means 4 times this variable. So another great use case for variables here, where you can have like, baby margin is 0.5, but I want everything to be relative to that, where it's like multiples of, or, you know, slight offsets of, so you can only have to ever define your like basic unit there, like, okay, this is half a margin, but things twice as big should have twice as much of a margin. You can use calc. And then you change that margin to 0.75 later, and everything will, you know, increase accordingly. I throw important around like it's 1999. Important is definitely, as the name says, important. I haven't needed to use it here anywhere yet. Important is a way for SAS to, I guess, overcome the cascading mechanism of CSS, I think is how you, is how I would describe it. Basically, important says that regardless of what other things say, like later down the line, this is the actual interpretation of the styling for this class that you need. So, for example, I've used that in, like I would make a class that would be like outline or something like that, that would always, no matter what, apply like a border box to the element you're applying it to, because that's the whole reason you'd apply it. It does nothing else. It would be a class like, let's go back to VS Code. I'm going to throw this away, but it'll be like border box. And you do border, and it would be like 1px, was it solid? 1px black, something like that. And then you do important, which is a SAS thing. I don't think you could do this in CSS. I don't really know. I think it does a compiler thing. Maybe it is basic CSS. I pretty much only use SAS, so I'm not quite sure if this is a modern CSS thing as well. I also don't think this is the correct syntax for border, but that's not the point. But yeah, then basically any class you apply this border box class to, it will have this border attribute, even if you had another class that you applied to, or like even an ID, like some ID said border none, because it's not marked as important. If you had, you can use important in vanilla CSS. Oh shit, didn't know that. Okay, well that's cool. Then it's not just a SAS thing. You can do this in normal CSS as well. That makes sense, because I don't know how SAS would interpret that, or how it would implement that if CSS didn't support it. But yeah, then if I had an element that was ID, some ID, and class border box, it would still have this border, even though the more specific selector says none. Because that's what important does. It says it has to be this way. It'll override the cascading mechanism, which sometimes you want. For attributes like this, I very frequently find myself building classes in CSS and SAS where they do like one specific property in a pre-configured way. That way you can very granularly apply all the properties you want to the element tag by just adding a bunch of classes. Yeah, no, it's definitely has its uses. But generally, I guess, more generally, if you find yourself needing to use important to achieve things that aren't like that, where it's like a class designed for one specific purpose, like, for example, if you couldn't figure out why your like main body or whatever was having that overflow issue I was just looking at, and your solution for that was just making a class that said, no, it has to be this width and important, that's, I mean, like very much a band-aid, right? You're not understanding where the problem is coming from, so you're just masking the symptoms, but it might indicate that you've structured something in a way that you don't understand and you might have problems later for. So, while important can be useful, don't just use it as a cure-all, because it's only treating the symptoms, not curing the disease, as they say. Anyway, what was I even doing? I don't remember. Oh, right. Yeah. So I've got my welcome to my web zone. Got text. Looks pretty good. We've got our scrolling background for the nav bar here, which is kind of fresh. I'll have to figure out how to get the text on here to be like better. We've got our columns for the other content here. I think this is gonna have like links to my various social media type things. And like an about page probably. I'll have to think about what I want to put there. And then here we've got our content. I want to make this maybe not just a flat color background, some kind of texture. I don't know. I'll have to think about that as well. We're going to have this be wider, more text, and then content bars in like a grid, a 2x2 grid, or two grid cells per row. So then you can see them peeking out from behind the fence, and you'll be like, oh, what's that all about? And you'll scroll down, and you'll click on them and stuff like that. That's basically the plan. Pretty happy with actually how much this was able to come together in just a couple hours. I am rapidly losing steam though, so I think I'm pretty much going to call it here. We've been at it for about an hour and 40 something minutes. So let's wrap up that README, I guess. That would be a good way to spend the last couple minutes here. And let's see what we did. Explain the cascading, explained when and when not to use important in CSS. And then we learned about the position. We also learned about the CSS display property and the difference between block and flex values. Cool. So we did that. What else have we done? Sass. Morning. Hello, yeah. Hi. I'm, I think, wrapping up. I'm probably going to be done at the top of the hour at 3 p.m. EST. But if you're just joining me, I like that you say morning, even though it's like 3 p.m., but to each their own. If you're wondering, this is where we're at right now for the website. It's basically going to be emulating my stream layout. I'm going to have my like welcome text, about me text up here. I have my nav bar at the bottom emulating my stream overlay with like a home button, tombstone in the corner. We're going to have our columns for like social links and other links around the website. We will have 2 boxes here that will be for project listing. It's going to look like this. We put these side by side. You can kind of see that we're getting there. Blueprint, let me make this bigger. Nope, that's me. I don't want to move. Blueprint. Blueprint, let me make you bigger. We're almost getting there. As you can see, we've got the bar with a little fence. I didn't draw the tombstone. Looks good so far. Yeah, I mean, I've put more time in this than I'd like, but part of that's also me talking. The goal of this is not so much just to have a website that's like modernized or new or whatever, but it's also for me to learn how to communicate these ideas and my thought process for building this kind of stuff to other people in a way that they can engage with. I'm not quite sure that I found that yet. I think I might still be being a little opaque or quiet, I guess. Maybe I'm not really explaining it as best as I could, but that's part of the end result here for me as well, is getting those skills developed as well as just like an actual website. Yeah, so then I'll have like peeking out from behind this nav bar will be there'll be 2 columns of project tiles, so you'll see like the title and maybe a little bit of the thumbnail for the embed, and that will encourage you to want to scroll down. And the nav bar is going to like stay fixed in position at the bottom of your screen even as you scroll. So that's basically my plan. We're getting there. It's beginning to resemble that. So yeah, back to the README that I need to update, because I want to have a running like log of basically what I've managed to do here each time, because this project is also open source. You can go to my GitHub page, which I will link in the Twitter thread for this video when I'm done. And it will be in the description of the VOD on my YouTube channel. So if you want to follow along, you can just download this off of GitHub. There are instructions on how to run this and what tools you will need up at the top. as best as I understand. Maybe I'm forgetting something that I do intuitively, but maybe it'll be all set. And then I want to have like a running log of what we do each stream, what we've talked about, and pretty much, yeah, that end result. A layout that much more closely resembles my stream and will format much more naturally. Yeah, also, Senites, for reference, I don't remember if you were here last time. My original idea for this was going to be like a Mega Man boss select grid, as I think I say, like right here, where it would be my face in the center of the page, and it would be surrounded by project thumbnails with like the name of the project. But it turns out like a perfectly square grid doesn't really use space very effectively on mobile, so I don't think it makes for a particularly good website. So I scrapped that idea. I think that's kind of like an obtuse way of conveying that, even though it would have been maybe funny or fun. We're going for a little more of a traditional style here. I think it's coming along better. I've got a clearer vision in my mind's eye, which means that we can actually make good progress. I think this stream went a lot better than the one I did during the week, personally, but I'll have to review the VOD and see how I did. So yeah, a layout that much more closely resembles my stream layout will format much more naturally on mobile. Features a nav bar that stays fixed to the bottom of the screen. Panel. And the scroll will house the project. Project information. Icon select would be so cool. I don't know. I feel like even on desktop, it's kind of like a weird use of space, because it's like a perfect square, right? And desktops are like widescreen. I don't know. I mean, I can always change it later. Is the thing. If I decide I want to go back for that, I can totally scrap this and do it again. I probably won't stream doing it again, but I could go back. I feel like doing one that's similar to my stream layout more inherently conveys kind of what I'm about. Also, like the Mega Man one is very, very gamer, which is not particularly me, I don't think. I don't know. They're both fun ideas, though. There's a reason it was like the idea I had at the start. Okay. We've done that. Let's open up terminal again. Terminal. Kill the web server. Git add all. Git commit m. Updated readme. Git push. Cool. Okay, so that's got the updated readme. So now, one thing I'm not sure about is if I want to try and keep working on this, oops, like a little bit off stream, like nothing particularly major. Like I don't think I think I know what I want to go over in next stream, which would be how to, once I have these like project tiles, and I keep mentioning, right, like where I have little things that are peeking out from behind this nav bar, and these would, you know, be as many as I have projects in a 2 per row or 2 or 3 per row kind of format. I think the thing that I would want to show off next stream would be how to get the server to dynamically populate however many tiles there need to be on the front end, right? So like I wouldn't need to go in and modify my like my index here. I wouldn't need to keep adding a new container and copying all the stuff from each one that I want to add. I could have some like spreadsheet somewhere that's got like, here's the project title as a column, here's the you know, website link to go to it externally, Like, go find out, here's the GitHub page for it or whatever. Here's the image link that you want to use for your embed. And I just have those in like a spreadsheet. And then I can get the server to read that spreadsheet and dynamically create HTML elements like this and insert them into the web page before it serves it to you. I want to show how to do that because I have a very clear idea in my mind how I would accomplish that and how I have done dynamic page generation with like very minimal overhead, no like super heavyweight libraries or anything like that or frameworks. So I can show that off and everybody can judge me very harshly for my programming decisions. But I think between now and then I might work on this a little bit insofar as polishing it up, like getting the font sizes and everything correct, like getting this to format a little bit better and fleshing it out a bit better, changing up the images and stuff, and probably getting at least one of those tiles on screen and then showing how you'd get the server to give you more of them. I think I might get to that point before the next web dev stream, or at least I'll try. I did want to document like every step of the process here in like a video series, and then link to that as one of the project tiles. It's like this very website, and you click on it and you get the playlist on my YouTube. But in the interest of time and just not repeating myself too much and having something fresh other than CSS and HTML for the next time, I might skip ahead to that. But we'll see what I have time for. I might also just not have time to do any of that on my own by the time the next stream rolls around, so we'll see. We will see. And then yeah, what was I going to do? I was going to pull up my GitHub because I wanted to show that this stuff is all open source. Let me close that blueprint again. Here on my GitHub, which if anybody wants to follow along, can be found here. It contains the README that I was just editing. We've got our like timestamps for what we've done each. Oops. Interesting, not where I meant to go. Oops, where'd I go? I clicked on the scene in OBS instead of scrolling because I'm a fool. Yeah, so it's got the README, it's got the code, got everything you pretty much need to get this running. Did we really only start this 8 days ago? That's cool. I'm glad to have streamed as many hours in 8 days. That's fun. Yeah, so it should all be good to go. It's open source. I don't have much more to say on that. I've got a lot of fun stuff that's open source too, so feel free to poke around in my GitHub as well. If you've got any questions about this kind of stuff, tweet at me at Thalmtaro on Twitter. It's in the bottom left corner on the tombstone. I think I linked to my Twitter from my GitHub page as well. Yeah, that's my page. So you can come find me there. I don't think I have too much more to talk about. Oh yeah, and if you like the wonderful colors of my VS Code IDE, which I use, that's also an open source thing. I made the styling and theme myself. You can find it here or at the VS Code Marketplace. I made it because I wanted a dark pattern or a dark theme that was pink, which for some reason there wasn't one. So you can use this one. I think that's probably about it. Does anybody else have anything they want to ask about, talk about as I wind down here? I know Bond just got something exciting in the mail. I don't know if they want to talk about that. It seems to be exciting. They hurriedly ran outside to get a package. New camera setup. That's exciting. It's certainly a setup. I'm looking at it right now. It's there's a lot. Mail time, pox opening. I hope not. I hope there's no pox here. Oh, box? Pox? My brain? Pox upon me. Please no. In these times, I do not wish a pox upon anyone. Can I just move to... Does this work? I forget. Yes. Okay. My extremely scuffed just chatting scene where I'm at the Gaylord. Soon, someday we'll be back here, but not right now. Anybody else got anything they want to chat about? I haven't had too much happen to me in this past week. We took our tortoise to the vet to get her beak trimmed and her nails trimmed. That was exciting. This is out of the gazebo. Yeah, I gotta like lean over and give it a smooch, right? Uh, so it's also a really low-res photo of the Gaylord, which is fun. And other than that, this week has basically been an exercise in me figuring out what my comfort zone and limits are for streaming. I learned from my Thursday, I think it was Thursday. I can't remember anymore what day it was. I think it was Thursday. My Thursday web dev stream that I shouldn't stream technical stuff after getting out of work because my brain was just not in the right place for it, and I like rambled on a whole lot in ways that weren't helpful or engaging, at least in my opinion. So I learned that about myself this week. I did a gorilla stream for Pokemon Unite, which was fun. I streamed more this week than I have any other week. I think I did 5 unique streams, this one included, over the course of the past week, which is probably more than I would like to normally do. But I wanted to figure out what was the right number and seeing if I could do like 3 or more per week. I like Unite. It's fun. There's no like, it's not going to be like a Dota or League competitor. But I can definitely see it being played at the next VGC tournament by, you know, the target demographic of children. I haven't been hit in the face too hard by the... People really are upset with the monetization aspect of it, and I get that because there are things you can buy that directly mathematically impact gameplay, but I have not perceived the impact of those things to be large yet. It's like the difference of a couple percentage points for item passives that you equip at the start of the match. Like your leftovers will make you heal 2 hit points per second instead of 1 or something like that, which hasn't really hit me as like, oh, I can't possibly win because this person's paid a ton. But maybe I just haven't fought people who have paid a ton yet. I don't know. I like it a lot. I think they need to add more Pokemon ASAP because right now I am playing Eldegoss, which is the only healer in the entire game. And I cannot believe that in a roster of 20 heroes, there's only one that is a dedicated healer. Strikes me as really strange, but at least both teams can have the same heroes, so that's good. You can't get the enemy team sniping the the healer away from you. They got Psyduck yet? They don't got Psyduck yet. It's so fun. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah, let me know if you ever want to play together on stream or just for fun. I'd be happy to do that. I did a impromptu, I guess, collab, technically, with Ricky Hirsch, who's another VTuber, earlier this week, where I played on stream with them for like 1 or 2 games. I think we crushed it, both of them. I don't remember, maybe we lost in one of them, and I'm repressing it. But yeah, it definitely seems like a good collab game, because it's like up to 5 people. Matches are guaranteed 10 minutes or less, which is different, I guess, compared to other MOBAs. So it's fun. I don't really think it has like a lot of strategic depth to it. We'll see how they support it in the future, if they add like stuff to it or if it's just more stuff to buy. Working on the rest of VTube setup, so debut in August, collab time. That sounds like fun. I'm looking forward to it. I genuinely can't wait for your debut because I think you put a lot of care and time into the whole thought process behind it, whereas like I kind of just fell out of the grave half-baked and ready to start yelling at people online. But you really put a lot of thought into it. Like, I've never even done a debut. I don't know that I think I'm going to. I don't know what the value for me at this point would be in doing a debut here like 6 months after I started running a Twitch account. People who know me know what I'm about. People who don't know me, I don't think a debut would reach anyway. So I'm not really sure what value there would be in that. But maybe it's something to think about for the future. Maybe. I don't know. There's a whole lot of this that's like total trailblazing and pioneering. There's not really a right way to do things. And figuring out what works best for the individual is half the fun. I think, anyway. That about takes us to 3. I think some folks are looking to start streaming at 3, so now would be the time when I look at who I can raid. And I can also stop talking for 2 hours straight because my throat is beginning to become, as they say, sore. I am going to send you all over to It's been a lot doing it by myself, but a really fun, rewarding process. By the way, it will be fun to do stuff together more. Heart emoji. You're so right, you know? It's true. I have immense respect for anybody who truly does the whole thing by themselves, because there's a lot of work that goes into setting up a puppet, setting up your whole stream setup, getting all the tools in process, setting up a schedule, keeping yourself to that schedule. Learning how to talk is like a big part of it. As you can definitely tell, I'm still on part of that journey of learning how to communicate. That's basically what I want out of the whole process, is to become a better orator and communicator. And hopefully we get there day by day. I gotta rewatch the VOD for this to see how I've done, see what kind of terrible missteps or stutters I've done. But anyway, yeah, top of the hour, 3 o'clock. I think some folks were looking to stream, and I'm going to send you off to my pal Isby, who I believe is streaming a King Kong game for the MSX, I think. So let's do a raid. When you get there, tell him I sent you. Mina, give him the old one of these. And have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This live stream is about to return to the dead, but will pop back out of the ground before you know it. I'll get a stream schedule up hopefully later tonight. You can look forward to more Fire Emblem and web dev in the coming week. And I think I'm going to do a model building stream if I've got time. But don't hold me to that. Just see what the schedule says, and I'll get it up in no time. Anyway, yeah, see you around. Thanks for listening.